Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from Black midwives, doulas, and other traditional childbirth supporters who have dedicated their lives to being of service to Black mothers and families in all aspects of the motherhood journey. This evening, I have the pleasure of speaking with Talise Xavier, the Homebirth Queen, from Atlanta, Georgia. She is a wife, mother of 6, author, and a full-time homemaker. She has resided in Chicago, Detroit, California, Kansas, and Zimbabwe. Her experiences in these differing environments have been the catalyst and shapers of her views on natural childbirth. Her book, entitled Home is Where the Birth Is, The Stories of My 6 Homebirths and How You Can Do It Too, is based on her firsthand accounts with home birth, breastfeeding, midwives, doulas, breech births, twins, and unassisted labor and delivery. She has been interviewed on Happy Home Birth Podcast, Boss Life Mom, Birthing Outside the Box, Birthing Spotlight, Rhonda Mary Vids, Empowered Black Doula, Homecoming Podcast, The Entheogenic Midwife, Doula Woman, and In Love Birthing. Talise now uses her birth experience and expertise to help empower other women as a natural pregnancy, breastfeeding, and postpartum care advocate. Her missions are to encourage women to birth their way, renormalize natural home birth, and educate women about their pregnancy and birthing options. On her website, she offers home birth classes, home birth consultation, and her husband has a home birth class for fathers as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome. Yay! welcome, welcome. I am so glad you could join us tonight. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. So we're going to jump right in because I only have you for a limited amount of time, and the clock is ticking. So really wanted to get into, because even just the conversation of home birth is foreign to a lot of people. So just wanting to start from the beginning of, what were your messages growing up prior to any exposure to, what natural childbirth looked like or your first child? What were some of the messages? What did you see growing up around pregnancy, labor, delivery?
Well, like most women, I saw on media, I saw, women hollering and screaming and cussing and squeezing their men. So that's what I saw on media. But in my home, I was taught something completely different. Okay. My mother had me as a C-section. And after that experience, and it was only because I was breech. So it wasn't anything wrong. It was just because of that. And so from her meeting women, as she, continued, she found that a lot of women are having home births, even with breech babies.
Yes.
And so she raised me to know that you don't have to go to the hospital. And she also surrounded me by women who were midwives, doulas, having their babies at home. So I grew up with the factual knowledge that women can have babies at home. So for me, that's fiction, that's just TV. That's not what really happens.
That is amazing. That speaks volume to just having the, awareness and the desire to do this and bring 6 lives into the world, with this process. So I know in your bio, you mentioned, the travels and the different places that you've been in, that kind of exposure. So what took place in those places that contributed to the factual knowledge about what this process is?
Well, I always seek out home births and midwives and doulas. So in all those places, I was like, where is the home birth community at? Who's having home births? How can I be involved? Or what kind of traditions do you all use? So that is something that I was doing in each of those places. Outside of my normal life, I was, trying to connect with the home birth community to see what I could add to my home birth gumbo for my next child.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. And I feel like, that whole thirst for knowledge and having that understanding is very empowering in this process, regardless of what choice you make or how you choose to birth. Like just having that on board and that exposure. So were you into birth work prior to your first pregnancy, or you had the knowledge and then after your pregnancy is when you kind of began to build that community?
I was probably more concerned with the postpartum period before I had my own children. So I liked, oh, the baby's come out, I'll help the mom, whatever the mom needs, I'll hold the baby. The before part, I wasn't really, not that I was adverse to it. I just was teaching. So I was teaching. So that's kind of what I was focused on.
So you were mentioning that you were teaching as far as what your experience was prior to your first child.
Yeah, so I used to be a teacher, and so I was just focused on teaching. And when women in the community who I knew had a baby, then I would help with the postpartum period. So helping them, so they wouldn't have to worry about doing anything besides healing. So helping them with the baby or getting food or bringing stuff over. So that's mostly what I was focused on then.
Gotcha. So the postpartum support is really where it kind of began, and which is a significant, transition. That sleep deprivation can mean the difference between a whole lot of things. So I definitely appreciate the importance of that. So what was that experience like for you from a preparation standpoint? So when you found out that you were pregnant with your first child, and then we can talk about all of those pregnancies after, because you've had twin births, like multiples. So you've had like all of these experiences firsthand, which is very different than most people. Like we can talk about the technical aspects of it or what things should be, but to actually have experience, that's a different level of wisdom.
So I would say for my first birth, I was kind of cocky. So I was like, yes, I'm gonna have a home birth and I don't need to prepare that much. Not that I ever said that, but when I'm looking back, that's what my action was saying. It's like, I'm gonna have a home birth and it's gonna be easy and that's that. But as I progressed with my having children, I realized, okay, if you want a different kind of home birth, you're gonna have to put more into it. What you put in is what you're gonna get out. So for my first birth, I did some reading, I did a little walking, I did a little exercise. I ate well because I just generally eat well, but it was very a little input for that birth. So I received the least relaxing of all of the 6 births with my first. It was very dramatic and oh Lord. It was all of that for my first. But I learned a lot from that birth.
So what were some of the things that you learned from that experience that allowed you to prepare for the next go round? Like what were some of the new things that you implemented? Just an overview of what you did a little differently after that.
Well, for every single birth after that, especially starting with twins, I was daily consistent with all of the things that I needed to do to have a smooth, easy birth. So I was daily doing visualization on how I wanted my birth to be, daily writing it, daily doing affirmations, daily doing exercise or yoga. I was daily doing hypnobirthing and staying consistent with drinking lots of water. So from what I learned is that, like I was saying, if I want different results, I'm going to have to do different things. And so when I was consistent, I received the different results that I was looking for.
Gotcha. So are twins like commonplace in your family, or was this okay?
And neither one of our families, me or my husband, they not. So it was a surprise.
And like, so I know when I was pregnant, we chose not to do ultrasounds and things of that nature. How did you find out that you were having twins?
I found out I was having another baby an hour later after I had my first baby. That's what I found out.
Well, okay. So when you were doing your preparation all up into, you thought there was just one.
And my doula was massaging me very thoroughly. So like she was saying, and I've heard the other twin was hiding in the back. So she never felt her. Like she was massaging me very well. And
Yes.
she never felt her. So yeah, it was no knowledge of another baby, no thought whatsoever at
Oh
all.
my gosh, that is miraculous. So, would that have changed your plan had you known you were having multiples, or were you still of the mindset that we can give birth to multiples at home?
Oh, I certainly would have still given birth at home. The hospital is a place for emergencies, and birth is not an emergency unless it becomes an emergency. So that's never even plan A Z for us. That's
Yeah.
the A or B. You know, that's not a plan for us. So that certainly would have been not an option. But it certainly, I think it would have messed with my mind maybe a little bit. Like, oh goodness, two twins, two children. So yeah, I think I'm kind of happy I didn't know.
Right. I can
To be
imagine because
honest.
I'm telling you, it really is more psychological than it is
Mhm.
physical because your body's gonna do what it does. But
Exactly.
that would have been a little, like you said, a little added thing to.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I would have um did a lot tried to connect with other moms that had home births who were twins. Like I would have actively like, okay, tell me your story and how did it go and blah blah blah. So I would have like amped up on talking to other women who had had home births. Certainly.
Absolutely. No,
Mhm.
that is, yeah, and build up that community. So you had a boy and a girl?
No, I had two girls.
Set it, okay.
Yes.
And then you have one set of twins?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So it's 5 pregnancies. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's still, I mean, again, it's phenomenal. So, so does it feel like with every experience, you took some wisdom into the next, and it just continuously became something that was natural and normal? Was it like? Because I know for me, it felt like I felt like I had superpowers after. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm like, give me my cape, I'm ready. So, so
Yes.
as far as like the environment that you created in each of your experiences, there is with each one, you're creating this sacred space. What was that like for you? What did you want it to feel like in the
Well, I think I created the space I wanted the most for my last two, which were unassisted. So yeah,
Can you
so
explain to people what unassisted is, please?
that means there was no midwife and no doula. It was me and my husband and our children. That's
Whew.
it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Okay. So what was that preparation like?
Yeah, so I felt that superwoman feeling with the first twin because that is when I finally achieved the head over pressure feeling. So I was in complete and total control. I was in no pain. I felt the waves or contractions coming, but I was like, "Oh, this is not hurting me." I'm not
Mhm.
feeling any pain like at all. Like I'm riding these waves and wow, I'm doing it. And so with the two unassisted, with the first one, in both cases, I didn't find a midwife or doula that I had connected with, which is very important to find someone, even if they have all the credentials, you need to be able to connect with them because you're at a very vulnerable place when you're giving birth and you don't want to be worried about, oh, I can't scream or say my sounds or be naked or whatever because this woman or man is here. So I said, well, let's just do us. We've had twins. We had two children before the twins. I was like, I think we can do it. And my husband was like, yeah, we can do it. So we had decided to do unassisted for them both. And it was just a very intimate experience. Well, yeah, it was intimate for both of them. Number 5, this was when my children were around. I had some flute music playing. The lights were kind of low. I had candles.
Mhm.
And it was just an intimate, like all of the children, the family was there for that one. And for my last one, it was me most of the time because actually it was really late and the children were asleep. I let my husband sleep as long as possible before he had to fill the pool up. But I had the TV on at first with like some waves, some ocean waves playing. And then after I got tired of that, I just had like some candles around the room. It was really dark. So I just like really like dark,
Yeah.
little
Peace.
light spaces. And I don't have more than that. I've seen some people really decorate their birth spaces. Like how you have lights, they have those lights. They have affirmations on the wall. But I have another one. I'm gonna get real creative.
I understand. All it took for me was some incense, dim the lights, play some good music, and that's the atmosphere. And like you said, the people, and I like that you mentioned as far as like who your birth team is. I think that plays a significant role because, like you said, you're vulnerable. You need to have connected because I know everyone after the experience, they feel like family, right? Like there's somebody you check in, they're a part of you. They want to see the children growing up. So it is important that you're not just like, okay, well, you got your license or what have you. It's more sacred than that. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your courage to be like, if I don't have anyone that I can bring in, then I feel confident in myself that we can make this happen in the way in which I desire. So that is phenomenal. So,
and I'm sorry.
No,
And
please.
in fact, in the back of my book, I also have a questionnaire for midwives and doulas. So if you're like, oh, how do I know what kind of midwife or doula I get? I have a questionnaire back there, so you don't have to look or wonder about that.
No, and that is so important to be able to ask the right questions because a lot of times you don't know what to ask. So that is a valuable resource. So even moving into some of the services that you provide, I know time goes by so fast, but what are some of the things? Because again, that wisdom and the way where you're coming from with this, to have these lived experiences it's amazing. So what are some of the services that you provide? Kind of how did you tailor it for your website and from your book?
Well, Homebirth is becoming more popular, and I'm happy about that. But it's still, and sometimes it's still kind of like, I don't really know about it. So I was like, I have, like you said, a wide range of experience. So I'm like, well, how can I help women besides my book? Because everybody doesn't want to read. But if you do, you should definitely get my book.
Please.
You should definitely get it. It's on Amazon, eBay, and my website. But also, I have home birth consultations. So women, I can help you from if you just want to call me for like 60 minutes and ask all the questions that you have. I have classes that help women who've had traumatic births or who need to know how to make a birth plan or how do they want to design their room. My husband also has classes.
That's right.
So I have many different home classes and consultations. I was like, what else can I offer to women who might not necessarily have the time or, their man might not want to read with them that is available that they can utilize to help them still achieve the home birth that they want.
Yes, and that's amazing. There's a couple of things that came up when you just mentioned the services that you provide. So because it is becoming more mainstream. You're seeing people on reality TV and what have you. But I know when I was doing this, like my oldest child is 17. So back then nobody was talking about home births. So did you come up against like opposition? Were there people who were like, oh, you're going to do that? Is it safe? Was there anyone around you that was questioning your choices?
Yes. And I learned with my very first birth that I would shut down any conversations that are negative about it. So I encourage women to do that too. I say, if you are talking to someone and they start frowning or making faces or something like that, just immediately cut off the conversation or change the subject, or if it won't stop, walk away or hang up, because we've been raised to think birth is supposed to be one way. So you have to completely retrain your mind, which is one of the classes I teach, but completely retrain your mind to say, okay, birth is beautiful. Birth is easy. I can smile when my baby's coming out. I can have an orgasm when my baby's coming out. Just, it can be a positive, wonderful experience for me. So yes, oh goodness gracious.
Yes, to all of it. So just as far, and the other thing that you mentioned that I feel like is powerful is the support of your husband, and also him speaking to other soon-to-be fathers, or already this might be another experience. They might have other children, but to have a supportive partner, I know plays a significant role in how smoothly this process goes for everyone. And also that the wisdom that can be shared, because a lot of times we might be confident, but if we have somebody worrying, in this experience, that can impact it. So can you speak to some of the things that your husband goes over, or kind of what was his exposure to natural childbirth uh, before you all decided to go that route?
Well, his passion for talking to men is, we've encountered women who say, "Oh, I want to have a home birth," but the man is like, "No, I don't want you to have a home birth." And it is ignorance, but it's not just that. He wants his woman to be safe.
Safe, yeah.
And right, he just wants her to be safe. So it's not that he's just trying to go against her. He's been watching the same movies that the rest of us have. So
Yeah.
he thinks that is the best place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband likes to dispel that. He
Yeah.
likes to share, you want your wife to be safe and protected. Where can you do that best? At your home.
Yeah.
Where she's already comfortable and safe and protected, especially now with all that's going on, where one person maybe can be in the room, or they have to be tested, or just another plethora of things where you might be by yourself in the hospital. It's just an awful thing.
Oh my gosh.
And so, he talks to the men, like a man, but to let them know, this is a much better option and way to protect your woman if that's what you are really concerned about.
Indeed. And so do you find that you're getting more and more requests for consultations since we've been in the pandemic, of people really looking at alternatives? Because, there is the concern that the hospital isn't safe, or the people they want to be there can't be there. Are you finding more interest now, or does it seem to kind of be similar to what it was before?
No, it is. Home birth is certainly on the rise. A lot of women, even if it's not even about the feeling safe or being able to move around or any of that, they're like, they don't want to be around other sick people at the hospital. So they're like, no, I'm going to be at home. In fact, some hospitals, I've heard of 2 so far, they've had to shut down their maternity ward because the nurses there were no nurses or doctors available. So they didn't come in for plethora of reasons. And so they like, well, that I have to home birth. So I tell women, instead of waiting for the I have to, because whatever else is going on, just be prepared just in case.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've certainly seen a rise of women talking about it and saying, shoot, I need to look into that. So yes, definitely it's been on the rise. And I also, another side note, I also have a demystifying home birth lecture that I do. I just did one a couple of weeks ago. I did one over a Zoom chat for a group of women who were interested in having home birth. So I offer that as well.
Yes. And that, I think that is impactful, because that is it. And I like how you say renormalizing, because home births, this is the normal. If you look at any indigenous group of people on the planet, this is how birth took place. The understanding of going to a hospital is very Western, and it's very new. Like early 1900s, we weren't doing that prior to that. Nobody was doing that.
No one was doing that. They just came into existence. No one was doing hospitals.
Exactly. So that renormalizing, that this is a natural, normal, sacred process, and how amazing and beautiful. And like you said, I like the demystifying, because you do have to take the fear out of it, right? Because I feel like that's what's driven home. The question is always, well, what if something happens? Well, typically it doesn't, but you have things in place just in case. So you are just as provided for, if not more so, in your home as you are in the hospitals. And I don't know if you speak to a lot of this in your lectures around some of the solutions to the maternal morbidity rate, and how they found that home births have more favorable outcomes, especially if either unassisted, or if you're surrounding yourself with a team that looks like you.
Also, because it's like when you have police in your in your neighborhood who are, who look like you or grew up in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm familiar with your cues, your language, how you behave. So I'm familiar with, if I'm a woman of color, I am a woman of color, but if I was with another woman of color, I'm probably familiar with, okay, no, you're really in pain. Like, you're not just being dramatic. No, you really are in pain. Let's really see what's going on. I'm listening to you. I believe you. You're not a number that I'm just trying to get through here to make some more cash.
Yes, yes. And that, again, that's what we're finding too often. So the understanding that this is a sacred space, you want to be surrounded by people who genuinely love and care for you in this life that you're bringing into the world. So I think it's just, it really is phenomenal. I feel like your book should be like required reading, like prior to even considering getting pregnant. Like in our for our adolescents, we really need to renormalize having those things on board, and not just for our women. Like the men need to have that, that reassurance and that understanding so that they can be supportive of the mothers as they're going through this such a sacred process. So I feel like what you and your husband are doing is phenomenal. I definitely will be sending people your way, because just to have, there's something so valuable about lived experience and the wisdom that comes from, and the confidence that comes from that. And just, I see it come through you. And I'm very excited for people to get that information and to renormalize this process, because it is an amazing experience.
Thank you. And that's why I wrote it. It's a very simple read. Like my 10-year-old read it in a couple of hours. So it's not that it's short, but it's very simple to read, and it's chock full of information. But I didn't just write it for women who are trying to have a better experience next time. I wrote it for teenagers and, girls groups and boys groups and young women who haven't had any children at all. So you don't have to go through I had a bad experience. No, you already know that this is a wonderful option that you can have. My son already knows, of course, my wife is going to home birth. My daughters already know, of course, we're going to home birth. Like, they look like, what's wrong with you? You going to the hospital? Like, of course I'm going to breastfeed. That's what I'm supposed to do. Like, it's not even another thought. Any other thought is like silly.
Yes, I love it. I do. And I truly appreciate you. And again, the time flies so fast. Can you please let people know, how can they get in touch with you? How can they get your book? And what things you have coming up?
Yes, well, if there are any midwives or doulas who are looking to list their services, I have a directory on my website. Also, if you're looking for a midwife or doula, you can check out my directory on my website. My website is TaliseHomebirthQueen.com, where I also sell my cream. Let me turn this light off so y'all can see.
Yes.
It's snapback souffle.
Yes, for the stretch marks. Okay.
Yes, I have no stretch marks. I have 6 children, no stretch marks at all. And my book, Home is Where the Birth Is, the stories of my 6 home births and how you can do it too, is available on my website. It's also available on Amazon and eBay, ebook and paperback form. It's on eBay and on my website. And like she said, I have classes and consultations on my website. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, Talise Homebirth Queen. On Instagram, Talise the Homebirth Queen. And on Twitter, it's Homebirth Queen. And and my email, TaliseHomebirthQueen@gmail.com. I am very open to getting messages, and I try to respond as fast as I can. I'm a homemaker, so I'm busy, but I try to respond as soon as I can, because I know, especially if you're pregnant, time is of the essence. So you're going to need a response fairly quickly. But that's how you can reach me. And like you said, my goal is to renormalize home birth, breastfeeding, and proper postpartum care. So that's my mission, and I want everyone to know that home is where the birth is.
Indeed. I love it. I do. And I truly appreciate you. We are going to put all your links in the description, so you won't have to try to figure out how she said or what she said or how to spell it. It's going to be there. You can click on it and get to it. If you found some value in the conversation tonight, please share it with anyone who is considering or has already had, because I think that, this understanding of home birth and just the value that it brings is significant and impactful for our community as a whole. Talise, I am so grateful for you and your time and your energy and what
Thank
it is
you
that
for
you are
having
doing.
me.
Oh, always. So I will definitely love to keep in touch. And, I'm grateful for everyone who tuned in tonight.
Thank you all for who tuned in tonight as well.
Yes. Peace and blessings, family.